this is like you sponsor the Swiss watchmakers to go to college, and then you can look down at your LV Debitune collab and be like, good thing I'm supporting this. What would those poor Swiss children be doing if they weren't going to watchmaking school funded by the purchase of my timepiece?
Exactly. I've dodged taxes all my life, but at least I supported a good cause. I guess that's great.
It turns this into like a D-trash, like a feel-good watch. Like, when once a year when it's like, oh, you donated to those kids in Africa, and they send you the postcard and you're like, yeah, my money's going to something good. You can look down and go, look at all of those people in school right now because of me.
Some kid gets to make a tourbillon because of you. Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch Weekly. Today I am hosting again as Rick takes yet another weekly sabbatical. Rick, whatever you're doing out there, I hope it's educational. I am joined as always by aBlogtoWatch's Ripley Sellers and David Breton. Gentlemen, hello.
Hello.
Hello. What I heard is that Rick is crossing the Alps on a donkey like Napoleon did.
A donkey?
Yeah.
He's giving his horses a sabbatical, and so he has mounted a donkey to brave the Alps.
Do you think it's one of those like macho, look world, I'm a man and I can topple mountains and beat you?
He's a Panerai guy. Dude, we know this about him.
You're right. He is proving himself.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if your donkey doesn't freeze, we'll welcome you back to talk about warm weather watches soon. I was in Japan the last week, and I understand that you gentlemen did not feed our audience with the latest watch news. How dare you?
Yeah, it's odd. It was an odd combination. I had just returned from Daytona, of all places, which is very, very cool. I wrote 3,500 words on it on aBlogtoWatch, so you guys can look forward to that. It's a lot of car nerdy stuff along with watch stuff, so that's something to look forward to.
I'm going to ask a couple of questions about that. And Ripley, what have you been up to in the multiple weeks since the audience have had an update?
Well, I thought about doing it all myself last week, just doing everyone's voices, having 4 different opinions and just shouting into the void for an hour. But I thought the better of that and refrained. So now you get me this week.
So rather than having a one-man show, you wanted to simulate having a multiple-man show?
Yeah, people are used to people talking, the back and forth, differing opinions, a Scottish accent. So, we could just throw it all in there. I could discuss Hungarian folklore. Yeah,
I heard a remarkable piece of feedback about our show.
Wow.
As you know, I don't listen to all the podcasts out there. It's not a slight to the other podcasters, but we talked about, staying in your creative lane for a variety of reasons. I understand it. But I talked to people that listen to the show, and apparently, despite our best efforts, we have one of the more intellectual-based conversation shows around watches, which honestly shocks me. Does this shock you at all? That we are apparently the smart talk about watches? What are the other people talking about?
Where is the bar?
It does, because we are not even trying.
Yeah, we're not trying. I put way more effort into Superlative.
Where is the bar on this one? Where there's mountain jokes, off-topic things about food. Rick thinks tamales have tomatoes, and this is the enlightened conversation.
And it's always like, won't you be shocked to know that this product came out of Scotland or that product came out of Hungary? Like, that's...
Guess the price of a Seiko, where there's... Okay.
No, that has real industry value. I support that game wholeheartedly. But yes, so we're doing something right. I just don't really know what it is,
Well,
that's very generous, though. I mean, that's not a type of feedback I was expecting at all.
What were you expecting?
Who told you this? Was he still in kindergarten or?
No, it was an adult, definitely someone that works in the industry who has listened to more than one show. I mean, somewhat of a reliable resource.
What I do is strategically ignore everyone else, so I don't know where we slot into these things at all.
You just hear the good news. I get it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Well, okay, we're doing something right. So, audience, thank you so much. So we'll talk about an article, and then we'll talk about Japan. Maybe it sort of goes hand in hand a little bit, but I published, we published one of my essays called, according to Ariel, Luxury Watch Brands Should Widely Embrace Controlled Discounting. So we just published this. There hasn't been a huge amount of discussion. I didn't expect for this to be a highly commented article. I expect it to be something that people will talk about privately, because it's not a conversation that's ever been openly discussed amongst anyone I've ever been around in the watch industry, even though it's a very real part of this history, at least historically speaking. And I make an argument as to why much, not all, but much of the industry should go back towards what I call controlled discounting. And I talk a little bit about the history and why it did a good job. Places like department stores, while it was a really big deal, and how the United States really was the epicenter for how to do this correctly and get consumers excited. I talk about how companies like Invicta, who, you laugh about for a lot of reasons, but is, a successful business that makes a lot of money, have been doing this in a way that I think is, almost formulaic. And then we also talk about how that's had a lot of clashing with expectations and perceptions, mainly on the European side, and sort of where we are today. I think the first question I have for you guys is, when you hear the term controlled discounting, does that make sense, or do you feel that's still far too open to interpretation? For me, it means something very specific, but when you hear that, what do you hear, Ripley?
It's exactly what it sounds like. Controlled discounting. So, either planned due to the timing of the year, or scheduled as far as like the percentage. So it's not like every retailer, it's a free for all, mark them down, whatever you want. Controlled either as far as timing or amount that they're discounted. Discounts, sales, whether that's the annual sale, the, new model clearance type of thing, or just a certain percentage down at what's a time of year, a widespread but sanctioned discount. So something that's sanctioned by the brands, not just done independently by the individual retailers, but like a cohesive price drop, across the board, or something that we can expect and
David,
see among other retailers.
Absolutely. And David, in Europe, what do you think the connotation of controlled discounting is, at least as related to something like the watch industry?
That's an interesting question. Where I am, which is Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe, discounting is a very odd thing, because some people would expect there to be some sort of a discount if they enter a boutique and they are like, well, I'm spending 10 grand or whatever, or 5 or however much. There has to be some play in that. But on the other hand, what is very odd to me is that so many people that I've known had no idea, absolutely no idea, even after having purchased watches, multiple watches, that they could ask for a discount. It just simply wasn't on their mind. They feel intimidated by the boutique, by the staff, not in a bad way, but still they are like, oh, well, I go there, that's what the price tag says, and that's how much I pay. So I've had not one or two, but a great many encounters where I had to tell people, look, there are some brands and certain situations in which you can totally ask for a discount, and you don't have to expect to pay full retail. So it's a very wide variety of approaches to this question.
There's two reasons I wrote this article. First is to respond to what has actually been happening a lot more recently in the watch industry, which is what I called hopeful inflation, as opposed to controlled discounting, where brands have said, no, you're no longer going to get a discount. In fact, you're going to feel lucky to pay retail, right? We want you to think that you're going to be spending more than retail, so that if you get a chance at retail, you should somehow be happy. So that's one reason I want to talk about it, because I think it's important to contrast that approach and highlight it for the silly kind of unsustainable practices that it is, and then also remark on what the industry probably should do. It has a strange relationship with discounting, because what discounting means to a lot of brands is gray market clearance pricing, not a small percentage off to make a customer feel good, but rather the wholesale elimination of brand value based upon a price cut, which is so deep, no one would ever take your original retail price seriously. And those are both forms of discounting, But the difference, and this is where the word controlled comes in, is that when you plan it, when you anticipate it, and you have some degree of relationship to the discounting process, you know that you can go far enough to make consumers feel happy, because we know that discounting is probably the most powerful thing to get someone to decide to spend their money, while not going so far as to train the consumer to have no trust in you. And even Invicta, and I don't know what they've been doing the last few years, I admit, but from what I remember, you know, their retail price was like, first of all, I don't think anybody has ever paid a retail price on Invicta, not in a derogatory way. I actually don't think
other
it
than
actually.
cruise ships.
And
No, I don't even think there.
If you have, I think you're due compensation. The brand will apologize to you. They never intended for you to pay that price.
They never intended that.
Yeah. Oh my God! I'm sorry. That was just for the hang tag, sir. Here's $500 back.
But it's like a starting point, and you're not going to get 5 or 10% off. You're going to get like 30, 50, 60, maybe 70% off. I remember when they were sold on like TV and stuff like that. They were like $1,000. No, $200. I was like, whoa!
As seen on TV.
Your first discount is 80% off. And then across the several minutes of promoting it, you might get a little bit more off. Contrast is I'm in Japan, and there's like a little watch in the corner that can't sell, and they're like, oh, special price, minus 5%. You know, and again, maybe that's not controlled discounting, but a different kind of discount. But you agree that it's very powerful for consumers, and if brands participate in the process, it does not look like someone is taking a hatchet to their brand value, right?
No, not at all. Especially, and if you do have high prices because you've been optimistically inflating them, that little reality check is needed. You know, if it's right outside of someone's price range, most of the time, because you've jacked it up that high, and they are going to hold out for that little scheduled price drop to come back to reality a little bit. It doesn't destroy the value of the brand. And, you know, every other industry seems to do it, whether it's, you know, fashion, electronics, anything. This is just sales, annual sales, new models coming in, old models being discounted is just part of almost any other industry. But I also get the sentiment where the luxury brands don't want to feel that when a product's discounted, that is actually reflective of the price. But obviously, all of these prices aren't reflective of the object because, you know, look at a gold ring from any of these manufacturers. It might have a few $100s worth of gold in it, and then they're selling it for $2,500 or more.
I want you guys to help me make sense of something. I've been struggling with this. I feel very strongly that the idea that you're going to continue to sell watches on the basis that people think the price will continue to go up, and if you don't buy now, you won't be able to afford later, or you'll be able to flip it and make your money back, and this idea that you know, you should be lucky to find retail, I think this is also unsustainable. This is based upon a manipulative pyramid that a brand and its partners have to build and sustain. And it could collapse the moment they stop kind of like feeding this weird, you know, bubble is really what it is. Whereas if you just sort of let the market forces take charge, it's going to be clear that you're competing with other things that are being discounted. And if you take advantage, if you control that process, you will probably sell more than if you just sort of let the market do whatever and have this sort of like strange discounting where this product over here is very highly discounted, this one here isn't, and you have all this mismatch all over the place. If you make this part of your strategy, you're going to be better off because it's sustainable. It goes with market forces, and you don't have to maintain this, again, what seems to be impossible to sustain, you know, pyramid bubble, whatever you want to call it. Am I crazy to feel that way, or is there an argument that's legitimate on the other side?
So who's saying this? I wonder, because it sounds like, you know, you're implying brands and retailers and stuff. But in my experience, it's a whole lot more an echo chamber of collectors and customers and just the community. You know, not even the hardcore community. Absolutely
co-opted the community, where someone's like, "Do you know what this is worth?" Or, "If I don't buy it today, I won't be able to afford it." Like, but it's based upon certain agenda-based voices promoting this concept, conflating watches as some type of asset. We've talked about this for a long time, the strange merger of watch collecting and investing and asset collecting and things like that. That's very different than just being into timepieces. But I think it's kind of confused and morphed in a lot of people's minds what a watch purchase is, and they start to have concerns they never should have had. And I think that's just sort of odd. I mean, a watch, you should not really be lucky to get a watch at retail price outside of some type of very exclusive thing. And what you end up happening is this growing inventory of watches out there that no one's wearing. And I think this is where the real concern is. People buy it with the expectation of selling it for more later, so that when they sell it at the reasonable market price, which is a discount off retail, everyone's like, the market crashed. No, the market did not crash because your used watch sold for a used price. That's how the market should be. And so I think a lot of, sensationalist, sometimes vitriolic language comes into play when the market simply behaves as normal. And that worries investor confidence, which is the people who decide to spend money on advertising and open up stores. And they're like, I hear all this terrible stuff is happening in the watch industry. No, the financial news about watches is not real news. That a watch is not as good of an investment today as it was yesterday has nothing to do with the watch industry. So that's sort of the epicenter of my concern, is the low investor confidence for no good reason other than watches are not a great investment, which they never should have been. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there will always be certain things, desirable things that people will sell for more than they bought them for, but that cannot be the unilateral behavior of a whole industry. In any industry, any product, there will always be those outliers, but used things sell for less than new things, and that's just the general way they work. And when a brand is too high on their own supply to think that discounting their own products that aren't selling would be a terrible look for them, that doesn't mean they're going to sell those watches at that undiscounted price. People weren't buying them before. They're not going to buy them if you don't mark them down. And then the brands have to do stuff to get rid of those watches, either in a backhanded or surreptitious manner, because they can't just mark them down at a retail level because of those policies. In the past, they'd mark them down a little bit. There's the controlled discounting. People buy them. All the people are like, oh, I didn't like it at this price, but oh, this seems like a good steal. Okay, I'll get this. That's some of the depreciation I'd normally be taking. But that isn't going to happen if the prices don't get discounted. But those brands still need to get rid of those watches. And so for a fact some of these brands sell to the gray market and supply the gray market, because what are they going to do? Throw them back into the foundry? No, they're going to get rid of them. And so it ends up coming back to bite the brand, that instead of just discounting them a little bit in a controlled manner to the public, they're having to kind of put them out the back door at a cheaper price because it's literally unsold inventory and they have to buy it back from retailers or something like that.
Yeah, one thing I would add to this, Ariel, is that I think we cannot really take out the equation of supply and demand. And whenever there's too much demand for something and not enough supply, and that lasts for long enough, then people just will see, okay, well, I guess if you want mine, I will have to ask more, because I have people lining up for my watch that I know what I have, and because this has been going on for a decade or more, for way more with the Nautilus and some other watches. It's not the brand saying that it's worth more. It's actual truth that some of these watches are worth more. The way that it is then applied or implied to other watches which are not, and applied to a brand, altogether, then that's when it becomes wrong. But I don't think it's as simple as, it's just an implication from the brands, because sometimes it's actual market forces that lead people to this belief. And that is when the market, as you say, crashes, when it actually starts selling for under retail, even though it used to be double or triple that.
It's an interesting discussion. Again, the article, which you can read on aBlogtoWatch, has to do with controlled discounting, called Luxury Watch Brands Should Widely Embrace Controlled Discounting. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's move on to me being in Japan. And ironically, there I spoke about a completely non-Japanese watch, which was Louis Vuitton and Debetun coming out with an interesting set of watches as well as a couple of clocks. But I got to go to Japan, and I did what I guess most watch lovers like to do in Japan, which is walk around the many, many amazing stores, especially the pre-owned watch stores in Japan. And I have to say something, and maybe some people disagree with me, and I haven't been there in a while, but years ago, I had the belief that Hong Kong was like the best city in the world for watches. And I'm not saying Hong Kong doesn't still have a lot of watch stores, but it's not the same. And I know that the pricing structure there is different. They really try to sort of just have the most expensive watches, and there's not a lot of like sort of good deals on display, maybe some, an inventory you can find online. But when I went to Tokyo this time, the amount of new businesses I saw, as well as the way that they had started to professionally organize some of the sort of little used watch stores to make them even more sort of like mainstream friendly, made me feel that now, as far as I know, Tokyo is probably like the best city in the world for watch enthusiasm. And it's not like a fight between like, Tokyo and New York or Dubai or something like that, which are all great cities for watches. But there's a sort of friendly enthusiast culture to it. There's a lot of standalone places that sell watches, repair watches. There's a lot more strap and accessory stores and things like that. And it's a good thing. Japan's also safe. You can, wear a lot of stuff there. And I think that what Japan has going for it now is it still has some of the best deals in the world. But what I've also seen is a major shift in their, I guess, philosophy towards display. They try to put the watches out there that they think are popular now. And so you have probably more than ever, and similar to what I remember in Hong Kong, which is like, oh, people like Rolex? Well, let's just have mostly Rolex. It's kind of like with the handbags. So like, it's all Hermès and some Chanel and Louis Vuitton and just like a little bit of other stuff. And I feel that while you can still find the interesting watches because there's such a high variety of stores out there, because of the tourism and because of a lot of other factors, Japan now is kind of similar. And there's going to be a lot of places, and it's just going to be those expensive watches. But still, they are at some of the best deals in the world. So especially those watches that are not sort of the high demand ones. Japan, from what I've seen, still is the king. And again, Hong Kong had it for a while, and I don't really know what it's like today, but it wasn't like this the last time I was there. Japan is the king of sort of the good watch deal. You have to sort of go there. I know there's tariffs and things like that, but Japan, especially Tokyo where I was really, really exciting as sort of a watch enthusiast center. And one of the interesting things there that I remember, a huge contrast from last time, was when you go to the used watch stores, you used to never really see Japanese watches. Now there's like vast sections on Grand Seiko, if you know what I mean. What have you guys heard that confirms or maybe contrasts to what I said about Tokyo as a watch market right now?
Well, whenever I shop around on Chrono 24 and elsewhere, then Chrono 145, I should have said, I see really amazing deals. Whenever I search for something and I list watches based on price, Japan is right up there. Oftentimes, it offers the best deal, the cheapest price, or whatnot. And that's not even taken into account whatever deal you might be able to pick up right there. Because in my imagination, and you tell me, Ariel, if this is right or wrong or correct, in Japan, you probably have even better street prices than what you could find online, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of the times they're similar, and you don't really negotiate. But remember, online, you have to pay shipping. There's other things involved. Definitely, there's the best price there. Plus, you have an immediate, I think it's 10% discount if you are going there with a foreign passport, right? You don't have to pay the local taxes. So you get that immediate 10% off of the listed price. So you feel even better about it because the price is already good, but then it's even lower if you, again, don't live there.
Right.
Ripley, what have you heard?
It doesn't surprise me that they're kind of building it up and catering more as kind of trying to be a hub for it. I know a lot of people were going there specifically to watch shop when the dollar was strong. This is several years ago. There was like the whole trend of going watch shopping in Japan, taking advantage of the exchange rate. But it's also just a great supply place for it. Japan, basically like invented modern collecting culture as we sort of know it today, and it exists in all of its forms with pop culture items, sports memorabilia, sneakers, what have you. And when you look at the land mass of that country and the amount of people, it doesn't lend itself well to a ton of space. Like Tokyo, not everyone can have a 5-car garage. You have to prove that you have a spot for your car before you can buy a car. So like this lends itself well to very detailed, small, high-end, smaller things like watches. And you look at like the miniatures and the figures. It's like, this isn't the toy from Toys R Us. This is like a hyper-realistic 1/64 scale or whatever. And it makes perfect sense why watches would have a long, long history of resonating within Japan's culture, and a lot of them collecting over there amongst people, dealers. So they've had a large stock of really interesting watches, a bit different than what you'd see over here. Some great vintage gems, some interesting modern things. And people have been going there for several years now specifically to buy watches. So it doesn't surprise me to see that they're kind of building that up more and making it more, more commercial and a bit more friendly to kind of cater to that the market who seeks out watches when going there. But also Japanese watches, at least within the last 10 years on the high-end scale, have been getting a lot more respect. Grand Seiko is no longer Seiko Grand Seiko. It's kind of its own separate little brand there. And so I can totally see them wanting to push the domestic stuff as well, because so many people go to Japan to get the JDM stuff, like cars. Look at all the cool cars that, people were just waiting until they could import them into the US. So like you get all the GTRs that are now coming over because it's just been the last couple of years. Same thing's true for watches. All those cool Grand Seiko JDM things we don't even know until we see them in a catalog. We're like, what is that? So if you go to Tokyo, the number of people I know that want to go buy a Grand Seiko while they're in Japan is great. Why not fish where the fish are fishing and give the public what they want?
I'll say one more thing before we move on to this Louis Vuitton topic, and that has to do with the Japanese sellers listening to the market, as I say. And there's positives to that because they're clearly trying to cater to what people want, but there's also something that's been lost. And I think the watches are still there in inventory. Like you can still see them online and they're still around. But when you go to most of the stores, you don't see, I'll call them what we see as some of the quirky watches that market likes. Not necessarily just Japanese watches, but some of the sort of like, luxury fashion watches, like the men's Hermes and Chanel's and things like that you just don't really see that often, or just other kind of quirky design brands that aren't usually as well represented. Historically speaking, that's what you would see because that was sort of naturally, what people were wearing and reselling and stuff like that. And now I don't know where those watches are. Like I said, you can still find them online. You can you see them like once in a while here and there, but it's a lot less common to find the, we'll call them the B tier of demand things. So on the plus side, there's more organization. There's a lot more of the watches that are sort of popular that people like. And the way that they break them down by styles of watches or brands, it's really impressive now. It's no longer this like random grab bag. I mean, I remember years ago going and like in the same showcase was like G-Shock and like diamond studded Frank Muller's. And then there's a Tourbillon and then there's like a Timex. It was like all mixed in together. There was no, separation based upon style or pricing or anything like that. You just had to know what you're looking at. There was a charm to that, but it was also somewhat confusing. So I would say that the market is evolving. And I think that's important because Japan kind of feels very static. Yes, it was very high tech, 20 years ago. It hasn't really moved in a lot of ways. You kind of feel like it's the same place. And that's a lot of good things. But within the retail space, within what they actually sell, not just watches, but specifically for watches, huge level of adaptation. Things are moving very quickly. It's not the same old stores. It's not the same old watches. They've really sort of moved with the needs of the market, and it shows a lot of dynamism. So I think that's quite interesting. Let's talk about this watch. So in Tokyo, Louis Vuitton decided to release what apparently, I didn't know this, but this is a planned series of 5 collaborations. Maybe they might go beyond that. aBlogtoWatch has covered them all. The first was with Recep Rexepi of Akrivia, then Kari Voutilainen, which was last year, and this year with Denny Flagile of de Bentun, who created, we'll talk about it, a watch and a clock. The watch and the clock both have the name, the LVDB03. The watch is the GMT Louis Varius, and the clock is the Simpantique Louis Varius. Louis Varius is just a combination of Louis from Louis Vuitton and Stradivarius, which was the name of a GMT series of watches that de Bentun made, and I think continues to make.
That's a ridiculous name. Can they insert their name everywhere else? It says Louis Vuitton and de Bentun 3 times. It says Louis Vuitton X de Bentun, then it's LVDB, and then it's Louis Stradivarius, whatever nonsense it is. We get it. It's you and it's them. That's great. Why would you have to
They don't think you got it enough. They think they need to have a few more logos here and there.
That's crazy.
Look, you make a point, but you can't argue that point with Louis Vuitton is Louis Vuitton. The fact that they only have like their logo. Look at this. The dial doesn't say Louis Vuitton or de Bentun. It has the Louis Vuitton logo and kind of the stars, but they're like, even the de Bentun name can't be there. And of course, on
in
the
all
bezel,
fairness, like think about Tag. Tag Heuer, Heuer 02, tribute to Jack Heuer, Heuer Graph. Omega,
Monaco de Monaco.
master of the masters and mastering. It's just
That's true. Yeah, I didn't want to be unfair by calling just themselves out, but when it's 3 times in the same name, I think that potentially is a record. I'm not sure if we could name a watch that had a collaboration's name in it 4 times.
I like on the movement, even though it's a complete de Bentun one, it still says Louis cruises with Denny. Like they had nothing to do with the movement. But it's still, I don't even know what that statement means. I don't know if that's oddly translated.
It's going to be in the Louis files in 20 years. We will know when it's released. What that means. Hopefully nothing nasty.
Louis cruises with Denny?
Okay,
That's
so
odd.
it means as little to you guys as it does to me. I didn't know if it was like
Not much.
There was a new usage of the word like they ride together, like they're homies.
Yeah, pull up.
The truck drivers on the weekend.
It's just like they're
18
lowriders.
wheelers.
I want to see a Louis Vuitton lowrider. That would be cool.
I want
would
to
be
see
cool.
a de Bentun lowrider.
Polish titanium.
That's just the thing they ride in Star Wars. What
do you
That's
guys
cool.
think about this? It is
I always
a
like
nice
this
combo.
case. I
Yeah.
really like the Tambour case. I really, really like it. It's an interesting watch. It has a lot of numbers on it. That's true. Wow, that's a lot of numbers. I mean, it's just like, what is it? what? But other than that, I really like those little like swears, the swears that go around, and it's a funky looking thing. It's just odd to me in the sense that somehow it just doesn't add up to a really very good design. When you have interchanging indices, that's one of my pet peeves, when it's a number and then it's a notch and then it's a number and then it's a notch. It just drives me crazy. And then when you have like blue hands and half of the dial is dark blue, so you cannot see where they are pointing at, and then you have numbers pointing in all kinds of different directions. So you have 15, but then you have a dot next to it, and then you have something else upside down, and then you have 6 the right way up. It's just... Ooh, I'm sure they thought about it, and I'm sure this is the best that was possible with this many indications
It's
and stuff.
still the
I don't
most
mind
legible of all their collaboration watches, David. You know that.
that's also talk about a little more. Yeah, I like it. It looks good on the wrist. It's at least it's contrasty, so I will give it that.
I think that it's really cool that you have. It's not the first time, but the blued titanium case exterior, which to me worries me because if it scratches, I don't know how deep the blue goes.
I would die.
Yeah,
I don't mind scratches on my watches, but if I were to scratch this blue titanium, that's
Right.
I couldn't sleep for like I don't know how long, for way too long. But I just thought of this. This is not the de Bentun that I would have, and this is not the Louis Vuitton that I would want. That's my problem.
Well, they're only selling technically 12 of them, but 10 of them individually. So you can see that there's 10 people out there that want to spend 375,000 euros on this.
Of course.
It's expensive though, and I think that they don't try to hide that. You know what their justification is why these collaboration watches are so expensive?
Why?
The money goes to a good cause. It's going to watchmaker education. That's
Does
what
it
they
really?
say. They say that Debentune and Louis Vuitton apparently don't make a profit or don't make money or something like that.
Actually, we just received a warning email from the accountants at Louis Vuitton, May Hennessy, and they said, look, guys, you got to ship these 10 watches at $300K a pop. Otherwise, you cannot afford watchmaker training. It's impossible. The numbers don't add up. Don't you understand? We have to sell these.
So they're... and I didn't hear them talk about this too much, but they're like, I think that's part of the pitch. It's like, yes, it's expensive. We agree. But think of that student who will be making tomorrow's, independent watch creation.
With a belly full of rice.
Yeah, so you send... This is like you sponsor the Swiss watchmakers to go to college, and then you can look down at your LV Debentune collab and be like, Good thing I'm supporting this. What would those poor Swiss children be doing if they weren't going to watchmaking school funded by the purchase of my timepiece?
Exactly. I've dodged taxes all my life with all my different whatever nonsense, whatever it is, conglomerates and stuff. But, at least I supported a good cause. I guess that's great.
It turns this into like a D-trash, like a feel-good watch. Like, when once a year when it's like, oh, you donated to those kids in Africa and they send you the postcard and you're like, yeah, my money's going to something good. You can look down and go, look at all of those people in school right now because of me.
Some kid gets to make a tourbillon because of you.
Yeah. It might be the next Recep Rezepi. Who knows?
Yeah. The transfer from my company's British Virgin Islands bank account has just transferred. So that's great. It just made it. So I guess I'm doing something good. We can be cynical about this all day long, but I think we have not really talked about this that much. I mean, in the context of Only Watch, maybe we did, but I think there's something odd whenever there's a combination of charity or a good cause and a luxury purchase. It just doesn't work. Because, if you're spending $300K on a watch, why not just make the sacrifice and buy yourself a $150,000 watch and donate those other $150,000 to an actual good cause? Just leave on the edge a little bit. Just draw the line somewhere. Because whenever you do this, it just doesn't. It's very difficult for me not to be cynical about it.
There's highly paid professional marketing experts at LVMH that are hired for a variety of reasons related to success and accomplishments. I'm not saying they know more than us, but they tend to know what they can get away with much more than we do, right?
Oh, of course.
Like, they know the consumer. I think they've tested it both ways. They're like, okay, we'll charge $375 and have no charitable thing. We'll charge $375 and be like, a couple of kids you're never going to meet are going to get something out of this. And, they just see how it goes.
It's exactly it. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying it's not good. I never said it's not going to work or it's not going to say. I'm not saying that. It's going to work.
You know what would be an interesting way? You buy a watch and it sends some kids to school for watchmaking, but it's like the token in John Wick, the favor thing where the blood oath. I've sent them to school, but their names are now engraved on my watch. They will service it for me at some point. I can call in that favor and have them service my grand complication because I bankrolled their school with my 7-figure watch. And then that way it kind of, you're then connected to the watchmakers that funded it. It's not just this financial tool. It's like, I sent Henri and Claude to school and they can, I can always come back to them and say, my friend, I need an adjustment for my calendar complication.
So do you want to know what type of access this watch does grant you? It does grant you a special kind of access.
Okay, which is?
Yes.
I mean, it's all in theory at this point, but if you, according to Louis Vuitton, as of my speaking to them, if you have this watch, you can go to La Fabrique du Temps anytime, just enter the building and have access to the clock. Restroom. Yes, use the restroom, get an espresso, and connect this watch to their Sympathique clock, which does not exist yet. They have to build it. But they built 2 of these crazy things, and I want to talk about this.
So but it is like John Wick. You can go to the hotel, go onto the steps, and just be like, pull up your thing and be like, I belong here.
You could dock your watch. This part of the clock gets removed, and there's like a little docking station for your watch, and they connect. So a Sympathique clock, it's a pretty rare and esoteric complication. I'm not going to go into it, or else the entire podcast will get taken up by it.
This exists.
What is the thing that you remove? That like brown.
It's like a half orb. It's got engravings in it of like, I don't know, Zodiac or something like that. This big blue part apparently is the meteorite part. So this is all natural meteorite. And then there's like,
the ultimate flex would be if you enter the building and you do this without having to talk to anyone. So
like a special ATM entrance,
and you start touching this $5 million clock and just taking it apart and just dumping your watch in there, and you're out.
So I hope no one gets too angry at me for saying this. Jean Arnaud had a chuckle when I said this to him because I think it was correct. But okay, so they begin this project by going to, Debentune and being like, Denny, you're a genius. Everyone really respects what you do. We'd love to do a collaboration with you. And he's like, And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to milk this for all it's worth. So he begins by saying like, yeah, I'll do a watch. Okay. And then Louis Vuitton's like, okay, great. This makes sense. We can wrap our mind around this. And then he's like, oh, guys, by the way, I have this other idea. And years ago, I don't remember the trio. It was like 3 or 4 watchmakers. I know that F.P. Journe was part of it and Denny Flageolet. They had to restore, I think, a Breguet-era Simpantique. It was Louis Abraham Breguet that invented the Simpantique clock, the inventor of the tourbillon. And the idea was a clock, a reference clock that you could dock your pocket watch with, and it would update the time because your pocket watch was horribly inaccurate because it was moving around all over the time, and your clock was more accurate because it was stationary and you could better regulate it. So in an era where you didn't have like the internet or your phone, you needed to have an accurate clock, a reference clock. How cool would it be then rather than have to sit there and stare at it and line it up, you just dock the watch in there like a reverse crown. I joke that this is like, 19th century USB, and it updates the watch. But they don't tell you that this clock and the other ones, it takes 9 to 12 hours. So when you put the watch in there, that's how long it takes to sync up. real speed, but it winds it as well. So just so you know, it doesn't just set the time; it also winds it.
You go in there, you dump the watch, and then you leave. You fly back home. You take your private jet back home, and then you take the.
So I got to finish because this is where it gets interesting. So Denny knows how these things work. He's one of like a very small number of people on the planet that understands the Simpantique clock. And he made one 30 years ago. And he hasn't found any way of funding a new one to be made since. So he's like, oh, LVMH, you're rich. Why don't you pay to build it? We'll just sell it for a crazy amount of money. Each of these, when it comes with the watch, there's 2 clocks that you can buy, and they're going to make a third one for the manufacturer. The third one is, the one the public use one. And they cost $4 million. You get the watch. 4 million euros. 4 million euros. And I think all of this is because Denny was clever enough to just sort of wrangle in LVMH to this ultra expensive project of making another one of these clocks, which
love it.
Anytime I ask somebody, how does it work? They're just like, complicated. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but like, how does it work? They're like, very complicated. So I have yet to really understand it.
The manual still doesn't exist.
But I know that this clock cost a fortune to make. Congratulations, Denny and Debentune, for getting LVMH to pay for it and 2 people to buy it. Rick likes the clapping thing. That's the clapping thing for today. You got them to pay for it. Congratulations.
Well deserved. The clappage. Yeah. I mean, it really is. I mean, honestly, 4 million each. That's 8. I'm sure it was worth their time. It's and this is precisely the sort of nonsensical thing that should exist in 2026 at the absolute top tier of haute horlogerie. This is where we are at. Yes.
Well, and the access that this thing grants is arguably more interesting than the watch to me. If I had this, I would frequent once a week. I would go there and I'd work towards David's goal of being able to drop it off without saying a word to anybody. I'd just go there weekly. It takes 8 to 12 hours. So I guess I'm coming back the next day to grab it. And just, get to know everyone and just familiarize myself. Go there, have a coffee, have a champagne. What are you doing? Oh, just docking my watch. This is the perk of it. But I think that's like a wonderful, weird thing that like I'm kind of amazed by that like, oh, I have this, what is this, like 375,000 Swiss francs, like that. I mean, at that price point, like, you want more than the object. You want the access that it grants, and this is literal access to the building. Like, that's
here's here's the thing why you don't want it, because then you are like the hobos at libraries, because you couldn't afford the 4 million proper thing. You have to wander in to this building you don't own to use a public service.
I'm just sitting there by the clock I don't own for like 12 hours when my device charges,
pretending to read, and then you're just eating soup or whatever. Just like,
I'm waiting outside in the morning before they open. I hope my power reserve can make it.
Yeah, in your S class, Maybach, whatever it is, with the chauffeur and stuff. That's hilarious. This is, and another threat to the evaluation of these desirable watches is maybe I could try and just walk into La Fabrique du Temps and see if I get kicked out. And if I don't, then I have the same access as anyone else, right? Because then this really should be like a guarded thing where you can only, wow, that looks cool. You can only access it with a watch. That's cool. I was wondering how big this clock is. I thought it was just like, half a room or something like that. That's not that large.
Yeah, and it can come off of that base. That's just a special trunk for it. I think it weighs like 18 kilograms. It's mostly titanium, right? But I wanted to mention one more feature of it, which is really easy to miss. You see these kind of brass-looking rings around the edge? Yeah. There's 3 of them. There's 3 concentric rings, and each one of them has like a different thing. There's clouds, and there's buildings, there's animals. And these all turn at a different rate. So the scenery constantly changes. And this was apparently one of the most difficult things, is to get this little system to work.
That's very cool.
Is it just ornamental or?
Ornamental? What part of this is not ornamental?
Well, I mean, is the tree?
It's an ornament.
Does the moving scape like represent anything, or is it just?
Yes, your current fantasy.
Oh, okay.
I want the columns in the mountains with the elephants and the rain. Like that type of deal. Where do you feel like wearing your, LVDB 03 GMT watch in your fantasy, To
the factory of La Fabrique du Temps to go dock it. That's exactly where I want to wear it.
Okay. So, yeah, there's probably a little mini scene on the rings of that. So you see here this little ring right here? That's the part that you remove the sort of half dome with, and you stick the watch in there.
There looks like there's a lot of storage compartments in this trunk.
It's a Louis Vuitton trunk. It's like required by French law. Okay, so 2 of these clocks.
That's good.
10 of the watches, so technically a total of 12 of the watches, because 2 of them come with the clocks, and that is the Louis Vuitton Debitune LVDB03 GMT.
Thank you for the laughs. I appreciate
good comedy, but also good watchmaking.
Yeah.
Now, at the completely other end of the spectrum, going back to Japan.
Yes. This is where we the plebs belong. A colorful 5600 G-Shock. Yes.
Well, no, this is the mini one. So this is the ring one. So this is the whole. I saw more of these in Japan, but not that many. I saw the yellow one for sale. Apparently, people thought so. I took pictures of this watch on one of my daughter's, pair of their dolls. It's like
that's perfect.
I know, right? I just thought it was amazing, like, how well, especially in Japan, they love dolls, and I just imagine, like, it looks too appropriate.
That will be in a G-Shock catalog somewhere. Worry not.
Oh, speaking of that, I got to see something amazing. I don't know if we'll ever be able to see them. I went, and we'll talk about this. I guess we can talk about it now. I went to I forgot what it was called, but the Casio, like, Museum of Invention. This was at the home of Takashi Casio. He lived there when he died in like 2012. He had built this home. It was like a custom home. And in this home, they turned it into, it's like the highest level Casio museum. It doesn't have the most stuff, but it's like really their history. And it starts with the calculators. And it's incredibly fascinating because I had never seen some of these calculator stuff. I've seen some of their watch museums and things like that. But I I don't even remember what I was specifically trying to say about it, because now I'm thinking about all the interesting stuff I saw there. Oh yeah, what I wanted to say was they showed me, they sat me down to have a lot of videos. So like, sit here, watch video. They had all these videos, and they had a reel of these incredible 1980s Casio watch TV commercials from Japan and Japanese. And they were so fantastic, and I don't think they're on YouTube, and they're so freaking amazing, and they will make you smile. I said to them, please let us publish this. But they were the most amazing, charming, exciting, because they were the commercials for all those weird gadgety watches. And so they like tried to explain how you would use this random thing, like your heart rate monitor or stuff like that. And it was just the graphics, the sounds, the guys yelling in the background, just amazing. I hope I can share that with the audience at some point, but maybe if I take more pictures of tiny G-Shocks on dolls, they'll let us do that. But yeah, this goes around your finger or your model or your daughter's toy. We love. I can't explain like exactly what. Like I couldn't write a paper being like, this is the appeal of the G-Shock Nano, but it undeniably is appealing. They call it the G-Shock Nano. And I think the best thing is, you know what? You can change the battery. It is actually true that with the Casio ring watch, which is not technically a G-Shock, you just can't change the battery. We talked about this, but the official thing is, no, you can't.
You can. You just have to pull out the crystal, which is held in with a special adhesive.
So you will break the watch.
And then fix it with glue.
Good luck with that.
Well, and also I think what's great about this one is that first Casio ring watch, the metal ones that they did, where it's really like a ring that it's a front-loaded crystal.
And it's cool. It's cool.
It's really cool. The metal injection molded used to make that case is really detailed. It's a very cool product, but it isn't a G-Shock. This is a G-Shock, 200 meters water resistant, shock resistant. It's got that wee little rubber bumper guard. For all intents and purposes, this is just a tiny little G-Shock, and I think that is fascinating. It even has a wee little resin strap with a tiny little tang buckle. It's adorable.
It's hilarious. Yeah, it really is. Well, I have the tin version that Oreo just handed to me of one of these. I think it was in Dubai, and this is like I don't even know. I've never put this on before. I must say, I just removed the tiny little.
Looks good on you, pal. You could be a ring watch guy.
Thing. Oh yeah.
So yeah. $110. These are hard to find. These Casio G-Shock Nanos. I did see a few of them in Tokyo, as I said, in certain stores.
Can I say it for more than I paid?
Maybe a little bit. I don't know. But let's show a completely different type of thing. I think at a different price point. These are 110, and they're worth it because honestly, it's not just your standard ring watch. But we published an article on an alternative. Ripley, this is your article. I'll just announce it. It's the Vesta. Okay, that's not confusing.
You can sell the red G-Shock. According to StockX, the buy it now price is $129. So
okay, slight premium.
$19.
That's what I mean. It's about that money. This is an investment, guys. It's an investment.
Yeah.
Mark our words. This is important. Let us tell you. If you buy 10,000 of them, then that actually adds up to about $190,000 of profits.
But what it does show is that availability is tough. If something's selling on StockX for more than the retail price, it means that there's still a little bit of that chokehold on supply, and that there's more people trying to buy them than what
I did not see was the 5600 with the new MIPS screen. I saw this one. I haven't written about this one yet, but this is the GMWX or whatever it is, B5000 with the MIP screen. So I saw plenty of these available in Japan, but the resin one not available. So that's something that I still didn't see. But again, Casio doesn't play the game of like undersupply. They just, if they sell out, they have to wait a little while before they make more. But this is the Vostra. It's got that Expando Flex, I guess called a bracelet, so it's maybe a little bit more comfortable, unless it's presuming it's small enough to begin with. Before we hear about it from Ripley, I'm just trying to figure out the price. I can't guess. I'm guessing it's like half the price of the Casio.
Yeah, so it's $69.99 for one, $150.99 if you buy three, and $299 if you get 5 or 6 of them.
Wait, what? Do they intend that you wear multiple at the same time?
Yes, and you can't choose the color. It's all blind box style. So they've made these ring watches. They're all stainless steel, mineral glass crystal. Yeah, you can replace the battery, just pop the case back. It's like a kind of like the Spidell Twist-A-Flex style bracelet. It's not like there's a light or alarms. It's less advanced module than what you get in the Casio. It doesn't say it on the watch, but it's still 50 meters water resistant. But here's the fun part about it. It's like a Labubu in terms of it's a blind box. You don't get to choose which one. There are numerous different versions, and they all exist in different quantities, or not all of them, but the distribution's not the exact same. So for example, that all silver one that's pictured in the article, that's one of the most common ones. Well, whereas that all black one is only available if you buy the set that contains all of them. So how it works is you'd buy one of these boxes. Inside would be one of 6 watches. This black one is only available if you get the full set. There's a two-tone, a turquoise, a all steel one, and then among them there's a couple that are set with like 36 genuine diamonds that, again, it's a blind box type of thing. So you open it, you get one of them, and then that's why they have them in different quantities. Now, if you get that $299 version, which comes with 6 watches, that's how you get the black one. The black one's only available in it. But for example, the gold one and the two-tone one exist in much lower quantities than like the all steel one or the steel and black one. So it's kind of a little bit of like a grab bag type of game thing, but the discounts do get quite steep. If it starts at $70 for one, but then you can get a 6-pack for $300, you know.
I look, normally I would just make fun of the whole gambling thing, but I recognize that this is the trend. Obviously in Japan, they're obsessed with those vending machines that have little capsules, which is basically a similar idea as this. And we're going to see more of an intersection between gambling and watch buying, where people will be buying loot boxes of watches. You're guaranteed to get something. You don't know what you're going to get. There's probably some of this stuff out there. There's going to be more of it. So this gamification of buying behavior based upon you're guaranteed to get something, but you don't know what you're going to get, is going to come into the space more, not less. I'm highly skeptical on this because, let's be honest, it's just kind of trying to convince you to spend more money than you otherwise would, because it's like, oh, I'm a winner. I got something rare. And Pokemon Train the Planet, everyone loves that, like a lot. It can be a bit of a trap. It can also be fun. But I would caution anyone to say, okay, why do you need 6 ring watches? Are you trying to get one for each finger? Is it for each family member? Do you know? I'm like, what are you going to do with it? Like, one of them is cool, 2 maybe, but
you buy the 6-pack set so you can keep 1 or 2 for yourself and give them away, but then you get to choose which ones. Because when you buy the 6-pack set, it comes with 1 of each rather than a grab bag style. So
but this is a difficult gift. This is like you give to your family, but like even as like a friendly gift, it's sort of like, oh, you know, like, do you want me to wear it right now? Like, I don't know, like.
It was coming from a different brand, but like the whole point of Ostra is it was created by the RZE guys to basically just to have fun and create products that don't fit into their world. They're like an outdoor adventure brand. They make tool watches and stuff like that.
No, we love RZE, and they are good. They are good, like, but you know what I mean? The whole gamification of it.
Yeah, but like they're like their fun sibling company that's supposed to have fun. Like this is specifically something they couldn't do. That's the whole point of the brand. It's not supposed to make the most sense. I'm sure there's some people who wish they could buy one, but like since the whole point of the brand is to have fun, doing this kind of blind box style thing kind of feels true to it and the gamification of it all. Look,
I know the trend is moving this direction. We're going to see more of this, so I'm open-minded to the storm of things that are coming, and it's obviously about promotion and consumerism, right? So I have to be very, very direct about what it is. It remains to be seen if people find the process of buying funner than the product itself, hopefully equally as fun. But do you not agree that it'll be interesting to see exactly how this trend transforms in the next 5 years? It could fizzle out, or this could be like a third of all buying behavior.
I think does well at a low price point with a symmetrical enough options. Like at this point, there's 6 different ring watches you could get. Maybe you like some of them more than others, but they're all the same silhouette. Chances are if you like one, you'd like more than one of them on there. It's not like gamifying your ordering at a restaurant where it's like spin the wheel and see what you're going to eat today. For $70 here, it's kind of like, yeah, take a flyer, see which colorway you get. But I wouldn't want to pay $500 and just get any Seiko 5. You know what I mean? Like that's less fun for me. I might end up with something I really don't like at that price point. But so I think there is a place for it, but it really needs to be on the affordable side. And when you're choosing between more symmetrical goods, like which flavor of gummy worms, not like gummy worms or pickles.
I think that one of the things which is important is that the odds need to be random. If you know that there's like humans in the background sorting the stuff out, I don't know you can trust it. You want to think that you might accidentally get like a crazy reward. Like, oh my God, there's 6 diamond watches in there, right? Like you want to think that there's a mechanical randomness to this. You don't want to think that there's a human making sure that you don't get too good of a deal.
They did. It's double blind. So after they were packaged up, the 6 pack sets were divided up beforehand so that they could guarantee that they would have one of each watch in it. But then once they all got sealed up, not even the team over there knows which one's which. And so it's double blind at that point. They don't know which ones they're sending out. They don't know which ones you're receiving unless you happen to get the 6-pack set.
They need to have like a meta style certification for this. Like, no, don't trust us. The Swiss government made sure these are really random.
Maybe I could do my own PSA type of thing. If you've got one of these, send it to me. I'll grade it for you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. All right. Moving on from the Vostra Vestra. Are they ring watches? Is that just what we're calling it now?
I think so. Ring.
Okay.
Like finger watch sounds worse.
That's no good. Okay, let's move on to a completely different type of product, many multiples of price. This came out a little bit halfway through 2025. I don't remember the exact date, but this is a limited edition Breguet Type 20 chronograph, 2075. This is one of the newer faces of the Type 20. The 2075 collection has a smaller case. It comes in a few varieties now, and it has a movement which is a manually wound 5 hertz movement. It's a flyback chronograph, which is an interesting combination. They call it the caliber 7279, and it's a lovely movement. It's got an engraving on the back of a representation of a famous flight where a Breguet plane, which again, I don't know why there's a question mark on the side of it, but there's a small question mark on the side of the plane, flew from Paris to New York. I think this watch, not a limited edition, special edition. They don't, so it's a numbered one. $50,200. A gold case, nice movement. I'm not even going to comment on the price or not. It just sort of is what it is. But from a design perspective, right? What's that?
The movement is in solid gold as well.
Yeah.
Looks like it. That's pretty cool.
For me, this was. I've always thought the Type 20, and we'll call it Type 20 family, has been one of the prettiest, most attractive looking of the aviator watches out there. Not all of them are equally as nice, but this one
does this look pretty to you? This thing?
Yeah.
I mean, if you squint, maybe.
Look, it doesn't have any obvious mistakes. You don't have to love the combination of the silver dial and the gold case, but it's legible.
I don't mind that.
It's not for everyone. But I digged it. I wore it and I thought it was really nice.
That's a good picture. Oh, that picture, it looks good. On the previous one, it just didn't look that great.
It's actually a solid silver dial. So it's real silver and gold. And it's an interesting combination. I mean, you agree. We don't often see this silver gold tone combo. It looks nice, but it's not that common.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to find.
It comes with like a distinctly vintage vibe for me. Like I think of like silver dials and gold watches giving more of a vintage vibe than modern stuff. But I quite like this one. Not having a date is nice on these, but it plays on all the familiar Type 20 elements, but it does present it in a much more posh and kind of unfamiliar manner. So I like this better than most, despite it being a very luxurious execution of a Type 20.
Most of the modern Type 20s have a larger subdial for the chronograph minutes than the running seconds. So I think they call it the big eye style. We saw it on the Longines, that was popular. But a lot of the other Type 20 watches, especially the companion watch to this that has the same movement, but a different dial in different hands, has that. I like the more symmetrical, even sized subdials, but other people like the bigger one. Anything you can say to defend the the sort of like oddball eye look of the big eye, or is this nicer in your opinion?
I love it. I think it's a very cunning little thing. I think it shows confidence. I don't mind it at all. It would be so easy to say no to that, and the fact that they've done it, I for one really like. But I really miss the fluting profile on the case side of the older 38 series Type 20s. You know, a Type 20 Breguet with a smooth case profile. It's just such a no-go for me. It just looks and feels very generic and borderline cheap. I think this could be. I appreciate the quirkiness, because if you look back at the last 30 years of Type 20s, they all had some level of quirkiness, and it's great that they are carrying that on. But at the same time, I look at this and it's just a few too many things that are odd and a few too many things that are generic, and it's just this really weird combination of things that is very difficult for me to resonate with.
I like the oversized big eye from a conceptual standpoint. If you want to speak in purely utilitarian manners, it's like, it's the minute counter. Why not make it bigger, better visibility, pilot stuff? But when we now have a solid gold one with an engraved movement, I do prefer the symmetry of having the two registers be the same size. I guess I respect the big eye look, but if I'm not actually using the chrono for stuff and need that added visibility, it's kind of a quirky design element, and I think this is. I think this just balances it a lot nicer, especially with the numerals at 12 and 6. So I'm surprised how much I enjoy it. But like David said, I do feel like the case flanks are a bit. It's not even like they look bad; they just look a little bit plain.
Yeah.
Well, good
I just
news.
shared a picture on the studio chat. If you can pull it up, I'm not sure if you can pull it up, but I just shared a picture there.
It's not going to be easy. Well,
Okay.
I did want to
that's
say,
fine.
going back to Japan, some of the watches that I most desperately wanted to buy were what we'll call classic Breguet Type 20s and 21s. They continue to have some incredible deals there on very high quality ones. Even some of the sellers were wearing them, which I thought was pretty cool, actually, right? So that was really, really neat to see. But Japan definitely has an appreciation for these. So this is a watch that if this $50,000, new Breguet Type 20 chronograph 2075 is just a bit too rich for you, you will be very surprised to see what you can get at lower prices today in Japan on Type 20s. I want these to be more popular. I don't want the prices to go up too high, but I really think that the era of the popularity of the Type 20 really hasn't come yet. That's about all the time that we have for this week's aBlogtoWatch Weekly. Next week, we'll be back with, hopefully, Rick from his Alpine adventure. And please go to the aBlogtoWatch website to see the rest of this. Ripley, David, anything interesting on your agenda for the next few days?
All I want is to hear Rick's story on the donkey and the Alps. That's all I care about. I hear that they are, they're on the way back, and it's the same donkey. That's what I heard.
You make him sound like a frozen Don Quixote.
Don Quixote.
Yeah,
that's a reason to tune in next week.
I can't wait to hear of the tales of how he used his panner eye in a meaningful manner, like Mike Ward using it to tether his rope to a rock.
Saved my life.
Oh, that's a good. Okay, so we'll hear more about how Rick's Panerai hopefully saved his life. Thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Catch you next week.